Yes, mom and dad, we've got to talk about training and disciplining our kids. I'm going to read out of this book today. If you don't have it, I want to highly encourage you to get it. Understanding this concept of love and logic, but I want to unpack it from a big picture perspective because we're talking today about the number one thing that you can do, and I'm not just saying that to be hype. I really mean it. The number one thing that I have done and my wife have done to shift our parenting, to take it to the next level, not just in its effectiveness, but also in the peace of mind and the joy that we can have as being parents. You have to understand this key, and it's something that I stumbled upon actually as I've been talking and training about this over the years. But the reality is that so many of us are just tearing our hair out, banging our heads against the wall because we simply just want our kids to do what we're asking them to do. Where is their obedience? Why can't they figure that out if they're 4 years old or 14 years old? It's an issue that all of us deal with. And we are not given a manual when we start having children on how to have fun at Disneyland. Everybody knows how to do that, okay? I hope you do, because if you don't, then that's a different problem that you need to figure out. But the thing that we need really is training in how to discipline and train our kids for life. And the benefit of that is that we have a more favorable and peaceful understanding of obedience in the home and our kids choosing the right thing in their lives, okay? If we don't do this right, we really can be a part of helping to set them up for failure as they move into adulthood, and we don't want to do that at all, obviously. So I want to jump right in and start with this concept so that you can have kind of a big picture feel of what I believe this key is. And here it is. The key, right, to successful parenting, it begins with a successful parenting style. Okay, let me say that again. Successful parenting begins with a successful parenting style or paradigm, a successful parenting worldview, okay? And you may not even know that that exists or that there is such a thing. And I'm going to walk you through, and I want you to challenge yourself, to test yourself of these 5 different worldviews, these 5 different styles. But the reason I say it begins that way is because obviously you have to more effectively then do it. You have to kind of follow the principles within that style. But it begins that way. And so the reason I figured that out is because I was teaching and blogging about tips, parenting tips and things that I'm using and things that are working. And again, I just use my kids as like a sandbox, like incubator, like trying to figure out how this works. And then I just blog about it. And then sometime maybe in 2010, I don't know, 2011, it kind of hit me. I was driving in the car. I remember this moment. I think actually my wife was driving because I had been writing and I was kind of jazzed up. So I'm talking to her about all this stuff. And I was just like, you know what, Holly, these aren't actually tips on how to be a better parent. This is actually a new paradigm, a new way of thinking. And that's when I went back to books like this and began to recognize that's exactly what we're talking about. And then it began to get affirmed to me that there is a style, and it's called the consultant style of parenting. Now, the name is not super important. It's obviously really what it is. But if you've never heard of that before, I want to introduce you to that style. It's what this book talks about, Love and Logic. A couple of other books out there. Super powerful, but I'm trying to make a bold statement today that that is the most successful parenting style that is out there today. What I want you to do is take a minute and rate yourself on these others that I feel like are not very good parenting styles, and this might be a little triggering for you. Just so that you know, I'm not trying to make fun of you or whatever. I'm challenging myself as well, and I'm going to share my results with you at the end of this. But the first parenting style that is not effective is called the drill sergeant, okay? In Hawaii or in Asian cultures, I call it the samurai. Okay, so I'm half Okinawan, kind of a Japanese sort of samurai culture, and I was raised a lot in this, and a lot of us here in Hawaii, locals or other Asian cultures kind of raised. It's kind of a stern, sort of an external thing. The drill sergeant is sort of out there. That might be a little bit more loud, where the samurai is stern but sort of soft, but using basically fear and intimidation, honestly, or anger, or this intimidation to get your kids to do what you want them to do. And we're not going to dive super deep into all of these, but that's the basic reality of that, and that's kind of how I was raised, and that I would give myself, a score. That's really what I have been in the past. And when I started this journey of learning how to parent when it comes to training and discipline, I remember my oldest son was about 2 years old. I remember where I was in the kitchen in our first home in the Carolinas, and he did something, or he was disobedient or something. And I knelt down where he was, and I grabbed him by the shoulder. Like, I'm being very transparent, by the way here. I didn't abuse him, but I grabbed him by the shoulder kind of tight, and I spoke to him through my teeth, kind of stern. And it was just like how my mom did with me when she got really upset. And then the voice that came out of me sounded just like my father when he would get upset. And both of them are amazing parents, and I'm not throwing them under the bus when I say, but it was just like when we got to that point, which was quite rare, but those things just came out of me. And I think it freaked me out, and maybe you've experienced that. And I was just like, number one, who am I? Like, what is happening here? And do I even like that person? Is this the kind of parent that I want to be? And then number two, I am not intentional with what I'm doing. I recognize that I am not being intentional with my attitude, my style of parenting here when it comes to discipline and training. So it launched me on this journey, and that was, 18 years ago. So the drill sergeant in the samurai, that's a large part of it. The second one for me is a helicopter, and I am a recovering helicopter parent, okay? So the helicopter parent, as you know, it's kind of a modern term of a helicopter-style parent who's always hovering over their kids to come swoop in and save them when they need it, when they get in trouble, or don't fall over and scrape your knee, or don't, we'll switch your classes in high school because you don't like this class, or whatever. The Apache attack helicopter is the kind of craziest version of that, where like, how dare you gave my child a D, and they come sweeping and like firing at the teacher or the policeman or whatever. And so that is kind of a high-level version of that. So rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being like high level. Are you a drill sergeant in your home, or your spouse? Rate your spouse too, and have a great conversation tonight after dinner on that. Where are you on that? A scale of 1 to 10. 0 being nothing, 10 being I'm rocking that thing and I need some help. Okay, so the drill sergeant, rate yourself. The helicopter parent, rate yourself. The absent parent, okay? So this is kind of not parenting at all, really, and probably it's none of you watching this video because you probably wouldn't be watching this if you're absent, but obviously those that are just out of the home or not even there, or even those that are in the home, maybe even providing. And a lot of dads get caught up in this, but they're not emotionally present. And a lot of studies have shown that emotionally not present is actually the same or as close to not present physically at all, versus the difference between being emotionally present and physically there. I hope that made sense to you. So write that down. If there's some absentee parent going on in your heart, I'll just be transparent with you. There are some times when I'm emotionally drained and I don't want to show up to have a hard conversation with my child, and I kind of feel like myself pulling out or wanting to be absent. I'm not physically absent, but I just don't do the work of a parent. And so that kind of counts as being absent. So I actually give myself a 1 on that scale. Sometimes I do that. All right, then the best friend parent is number 4. A lot of us can identify with this. I'm very, very guilty of this as well. I give myself a 4 on the scale here of best friend. Like, you just want to be best friends with your kids. You want them to like you. You want their friends to like you, especially when they become teenagers. This can be very dangerous. It can be a trap. I'm not saying you can't be friends with your kids, and especially daughters and moms. I find really there's a lot of friendship. They use that term a lot, maybe more than dads with their sons and their teen sons, but I feel like I have a great friendship with especially my older kids, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this desire to be a best friend, so much so that you won't discipline, you won't have difficult conversations, or you won't allow life to discipline your child. You guard them from that. You just want to do whatever you can to make them like you. You know what I'm saying there? You get it. So rate yourself there. I'm going to be straight with you that I would rate myself a 4. I think I have more of a problem with this one in my later parenting years than I had in my earlier parenting years. Finally, the consultant parent. And I want to read this. Consultant parents are kind of like mentors, or kind of like coaches, right? Again, we can't get deep into this. We will later in a live webinar that I want to share with you. But they step back a bit from being the enforcer of limits. Yes, we have to enforce limits, but we step back a bit from that and let reasonable, real-world consequences do the teaching. Super clear, super key piece, I should say, and something that we want to unpack later. They become, listen, advisors and counselors more than police officers, right? More than those enforcers, allowing their adolescents to make more decisions for themselves and then guiding them to successfully navigate the consequences of those decisions. Let me read that last part again. Guiding them to successfully navigate the consequences of those decisions. Here's one of the key pieces about being a consultant-style parent, is that it's anger-free. And I call my style of consultant parenting choice empowerment, which I'm going to be sharing with you more and more as we go along. But It is an anger-free discipline and training system and parenting style, and it's very powerful. And we allow life to do the discipline. We allow life to sting our kids, no matter what age. And we then allow to come alongside and help them navigate and cheer and be positive. And it gives us so much more peace in our home. I don't do it perfectly, nor are my kids perfect, as you know, but it's a powerful way to go about this, okay? Hey, thanks for sticking with me. I want you to do this for your homework. I want you to write in the comments below if you've got some courage. Just to be transparent, we're all learning together. I'm going to write mine in the comments below and share what number are you on these scales out of 1 to 10 on these various categories. And then I also secondarily encourage you to learn about the Consultant Parenting Style. This is a great book to start. I don't know these folks personally, but I just really love what they're doing. Again, it's called Parenting with Love and Logic. Sit down with your spouse, or if you're a single parent, with some friends or other parents that you're running with in life to encourage one another. Hey, it's difficult to make a shift to a new parenting style. We're going to talk about that more later, but it's important that we do it, and it honestly is the #1 key in having success is choosing a successful parenting style. Hey, listen, Mom and Dad, I believe in you. Wanted to encourage you today. Share this with parents who really need it, and I'll talk to you soon.